Thank you for joining us for the presentation today. As Elise mentioned, that today I'm Alan Porter, the Product Marketing Director for Nexio, and today joined by Frederic Sanui from Activo Consulting. And Frederick's going to sort of lead us off with a look at some of the issues that face folks in terms of getting their marketing assets out in the current environment. So I'm going to hand it over to Frederic.
Yes, thank you, Alan. So thank you everybody to join this webinar, and I'm very excited to share my experience regarding DAM, ECM, and PIN project alongside this year. And maybe something we can start is just to get some interesting analytics. I just pick up this information from the Campus Analytics survey, marketing. And so what we can see, and that's definitely something I can see every time as soon as I'm close to the customer during discovery days, etc. Yes, people need to get a DAM system because, as you know, they need to organize all the content in just one single source of truth. But in large organization, and even now for most of the customers, whatever you are working for, whatever who you are, brands, retailers, agencies, you need to share the content alongside all the stakeholders. You need to approve this content. And this is exactly the clear representation of this survey, when we can see that more or less half of marketers said that they have a lack of process and workflows, which means, in fact, and as we can see with Alan later on, is you need to approve the content. Each stakeholder has different roles, and somebody has to approve the content, somebody can reject the content, etc. And this is exactly what these numbers are showing today. And if you want to avoid some manual tasks, if you want to bring more automation alongside your approval of the content, definitely so workflow management, something we can call sometime as business process mapping also, is definitely a key and unique selling point today regarding the solution you have to deploy. Next. And of course, as a DAM fan or something like that, but I think any people in this ecosystem is a DAM fan. So as a foundation, you have a DAM system, and the DAM system today has some new challenging, especially since a couple of years. You have more and more a lot of assets to manage, and the purpose of a DAM is really starting from the asset creation, whatever they are. So it can be images, videos, ER, catalogs, print, 3D, etc. And the DAM has to, based on metadata, so custom metadata, standard metadata, has the ability to process the files. So DAM is an engine, and DAM also have capabilities to provide connectors to manage this content alongside your the management of your content inside the company. So the DAM is also very important regarding the management of the assets themselves. So it means the renditions. And today, as we see a little bit later, a DAM is a foundation also for all the syndication. And at the end of the workflow, you have all these output channels. And today, as you know, you have to produce the same content in so different touch points, whatever it's a web, marketing, print, etc. Next.
And as Frederic really just pointed out, that digital asset management platforms can really achieve a lot and provide us with a lot of value, but they are traditionally seen as really solely focused on managing rich media for marketing applications, for which they're really good at, particularly around websites. But experience shows that really once a DAM has been introduced, that the number of use cases tends to grow across the organization as people start to see the value in actually managing and organizing their digital assets and putting metadata around it. Unfortunately, these still tend to be siloed in different functional areas, so we end up with different versions of a DAM across the organization. Where we can get the real power from our assets, and what we really want to talk about is a new approach that really takes content management and content beyond the marketing department, and where we can use DAM technology to connect content and data across the organization by connecting the use cases and connecting assets to the business data that you need to across the full product lifecycle. And just sort of a quote from a recent or a couple of years ago, McKinsey survey that really the top performing companies, those these days that are actually reducing the amount of time that it takes for them to deliver product to market, is really today all around about accelerating your ideas to market. And this is where we believe that the approach that we're advocating can really help companies really, as we talked about, today's creative assets impact not just marketing, but the full product life cycle, from the original idea all the way through to sales and support and the customer experience, impacting everything from product design onwards. So what we really need to do is build a sort of an efficient digital supply chain, which helps us increase the value of the assets by connecting all the times that a visual asset can add value to develop a more effective, informed and efficient digital supply chain. And this really does help us accelerate the time it takes to deliver product ideas to market and improve the overall customer experience. So at Nuxia, we took a look at the typical product life cycle of creating a product and making it and selling it and supporting it, and really identified 7 touch points during the product life cycle where we believe that digital assets can really drive the most value once they're connected to the business data. And these 7 touch points, and we'll go into each of these in a little more detail over the next few slides, but come down to areas around the materials library, designing and prototyping the product, photo shooting, doing photo shoots, developing creative campaigns, packaging design, and then sort of on the support side around content hubs and portals, and actually helping to deliver and drive the product knowledge. So we believe that each of these 7 touch points in the product lifecycle are areas where a DAM approach can really add value by connecting your visual assets to the product data at each of these points in the process. So if we start with the materials library, working with materials libraries in a typical large company requires a range of specialized file types and applications to build a reference library of elements that the designers can then apply to the product. And teams working to scan and test materials really do need to send that information to downstream teams working in different disconnected silos. So by using a DAM to support things like cataloging, using and modifying compound files such as 3D rendering, image files, material examples, etc., understanding what has been used in previous designs and being able to pull that back. So really what we can use the DAM for here is to create a digital design environment where designers have full visibility to a materials information from both internal and external sources, all in the context of the design process that they're working on. So for us, that's where we see sort of the first step of where DAM can really add value. The second one, as I sort of just touched on, is actually linking the materials library to the design and prototyping. So, you know, when a company's putting a new product together, samples and prototypes are really critical in bringing new products to market and selling them to retailers. And what we really want to do is look at ways that we can accelerate that process to drive faster, more responsive design cycles, and actually get internal selling quicker, and actually be able to put things out to potential retailers so they can think about stocking it and marketing it. So really, in a perfect world for designers, they would have every material that they needed at their fingertips for analysis and collaboration, all the relevant information available, pricing availability, and be able to move things around the organization and get approvals without actually having to wait for physical product to be created. So applying sort of a DAM approach to information around design prototyping, we can use things like design tools, like say Adobe Illustrator or Photoshop or 3D rendering software, link it to the DAM, enhance that connectivity with materials reference, library information that the product designers can work with, and give easy access to centralized design libraries, and then drag and drop things into the design, build a compound 3D model, spin it, look at it, and help that get approvals. So applying the DAM process to that area, and having a DAM that can federate search across different systems and teams across the globe also makes it easier, particularly in sort of today's type of environment, for teams to collaborate virtually in a digital world and increase the speed that teams can discover and modify existing designs, find out what has been used in sister brands or in past design or seasons if it's a clothing manufacturer, and see what they can actually reuse, and again make the whole design and prototyping process a lot quicker and much more efficient. The third area is around Photo Studio. This is probably a bit more related to the traditional area of DAM, where it is designed around fixed assets, rich media assets. But with things like e-commerce, again, particularly in today's environment, now a key strategic focus for product companies. Product photography and video is really driving sales in more channels than ever before. And unlike sort of the less structured creative materials used in campaign development, photo studios are really based around productivity and speed. We're hearing things like, things that used to be done in months need to be done in weeks now. Things that used to be done in weeks need to be done in days. Things that used to be done in days need to be done in hours. So there really is a lot of pressure to turn photography and product photography around much quicker, to get things online quicker. Unfortunately, a lot of the processes that drive photography are really built around the old manual processes. So a lot of the existing processes are really ad hoc and manual, but applying a DAM on a workflow and linking the DAM to the product data really is helping speed up the whole overall process. So really, and it will really help them scale in a way that the old systems wouldn't. So I think things like having a cloud native DAM really enables teams to search through sort of big file sets and multiple global repositories to see what's been done, so they're not taking the same photographing the same product multiple times in different parts of the world. Having a workflow where folks can actually vote on images or select them and do markup and video and automatic routing of materials for additional review can helping. And really by connecting the product information with the assets in the upstream process, you can streamline the whole business request for photo shoots, increase the productivity, get contextual briefs, as well as do in platform photo and video annotations, full audit trails, and maybe even link by linking to the business files and enhancing the metadata. You can link to things like, say, a model's contract, so you're making sure that you're using the right photographs in the right place at the right time for the right product, and so forth. So a lot of potential in applying a connected DAM thought process to the photo studio environment. And Frederic can talk through maybe a practical application of that.
Yes, so I think more or less you said the most important things regarding this photography lifestyle workflows, but it's true something that maybe not everybody is aware, and I had this a couple of examples by customers. Today, as for example, especially for retailers, they have to manage 30,000 raw files per day, something like that, which is not some small JPEGs. It's all about this volume to be able to manage in one day. And at the same time, this retailer has also to be able to distribute, to syndicate this content in more than 50 different renditions in different channels, etc. So you can easily imagine the workflow that has to be able to manage behind from the photo capture. And most of the time, these people are using, I think, more or less the software is based on Capture One, so you can control the digital camera, you can get your raw files, you can develop the pictures. It's all based on some color currency, ICC profiles, etc. So it's a very complex thing. And you need to approve this content alongside the different stakeholders from the customers, and you need to a very strong dam at that stage. So it's very important to be able to be from a dam to be capable to manage all this information. One thing also it's important because sometimes you have information before to get the file. So your system also has to be able to create some something like a project based on some custom layout of informations. And when features are coming inside the project, they are able to inherit from this information. So this one is a real challenge today, and sometimes not so many, I think, vendors can be able to manage the entire workflow.
Thank you. So really the essential next step, once you actually have your photography and your assets and your design and everything done, is really thinking about developing the creative campaign around it. Ideally, marketing campaigns need to be planned and initiated as early as possible in the product lifecycle. This is especially true in trend-based industries like retail, clothing, so forth, footwear, apparel, cosmetics, and so really anything that's based on a fast-moving consumer brand. We really need to get the marketing campaign managed and discussed as early as possible. So the marketing team needs access to the latest product designs, imagery, specifications, projected availability early on, and having a connected dam that connects to the different business systems allows them to get that visibility across. So again, having federated search that can search across many different systems and across the globe, for different teams across the globe or in different functional areas, can make it easy and fast for teams to discover and collate the correct campaign material and information. And again, a good workflow and approvals process by a group to pool-based approvals and multi-level executive approvals can really be configured to meet the business workflow and improve the speed of approvals dramatically. And one area we're finding there is a lot of interest in really applying a dam techniques and dam approaches around packaging design. Creative design is needed for packaging and labels and often has exacting legal requirements around it. And companies are looking to make sure that their customers have a consistent brand experience. They're meeting whatever local regulations and labeling standards they need, and localization of design is becoming key. The thing is, new products, ingredient changes, rebranding, every product change creates a need for new packaging. And there's also, we're tending to find that the creative information and technical information needed often causes issues with the file formats whenever packaging is involved, and packaging designers are really called on to localize designs to multiple markets and to change specific elements like color and so forth to create many iterations of what is basically the same basic package design. So by applying sort of a dam approach, connected dam approach, that every person involved in the packaging design should really be able to be involved in the review and approval process and see the information that they need. If we can connect the images from the graphic designers, copy from creatives, product information from a PIM system or design briefs, along with full versions and audit trails, it makes it easier to audit what changes need to be made, when they're made, who's changing them, and the approval process that goes with that. So we're finding that applying the sort of dam approach in a packaging, connected dam approach in a packaging design area is really giving each team member what they need to see to create the derivatives that they need to without cluttering up their space. And also the legal review and approval process can be done with by using low-res image previews instead of higher resolution views, or the graphic designers can still work with the uncompressed graphic files because they really need, in packaging design, they really need to get down into sort of the pixel level design on occasions. And again, Frederick's got a good use case to talk us through.
Yeah, for sure. And I think alongside the photography workflow, it's maybe packaging is really one avatar, because for all the reasons you all just explained before, One thing that it's important to understand is today a packaging and artwork is something the most complex ever files you can find, because you have to manage different versions, because you have to make different translation of your files. So more and more brands in packaging are using multi-page PDF files to manage the different languages. But inside the file itself, you have a lot of complexity regarding the opacity, the transparency of the different layers, the management of spot colors, etc. And with some of the top packaging brands customer you have today, just try to open the file on your desktop and nothing really you can do. That's the one thing, the complexity of the file. The second point is really the workflow. At that stage, it's so important to get a real business workflow engine inside your solution. Most brands in packaging, they have to manage the approval cycle alongside different countries in the world. So it's starting from a brief. As we can see here, you have to manage different types of images, text. Most of the brands are working with agencies. At the end of the day, we have to master all these artworks in just one single file to be able to syndicate this content all alongside the different touch points. And so a couple of customers I know today, there are more than 1,000 online. They have to, in a single platform, your DAM, your ECM system, they need to collaborate. So it's very important. We are talking about the complexity of a file. They need also to mark up the file. So you need, as usual, this a piece of technologies to make everything happen properly. So this one is very important. Something I will also highlight maybe is also all the KPIs. It's very important for brands in packaging today to be able to measure, to check the different bottlenecks inside the workflow. So we are more and more talking about business intelligence instead of simple KPIs. So it's very important to get the right technology cocktail at that stage. And the reason why it was very important for from the previous slide to talk about connectors, it's you need to connect to a PM, you need to connect to your PLM system in order to be able to manage the entire workflow.
Thank you. So we've sort of talked about the steps around creating a product in terms of material design, materials libraries and design, in sort of making the product in terms of photos, doing the photography, the campaign planning, and the packaging. Really want to focus on the last two of the 7 steps, is more on the point of sale and post-sales process, particularly content hubs to start with. We think of it as a content hub really as a collection of content and metadata from the upstream processes for distribution to the marketing, retail, and sales channels. The marketeers, the sales personnel, the retailers really do rely on having the up-to-date, accurate product information to make critical decisions about how products are displayed to customers. And that companies creating complicated, diverse product assortments, they really need to be. They have multiple teams responsible for taking products to market, and they really do struggle, and we found they really do struggle with having to search through multiple systems to find the information they need. So by having a sort of connected DAM approach, we can link the visuals to the inventory and product information systems, enabling access only for the sort of brand images and information specific to the products that a retailer has purchased or that a salesperson needs access to. We've also got use cases where products can automatically enter a hub or a portal when specific actions are made, like if a major retailer buys a new line of shirts, it sort of only enters it automatically enters their retail portal, so it's available for the retailers to sell at that almost immediately. So again, speeding up time to market. And sort of lastly, but probably one of the most important, is actually bringing together all this collection of product information, including the visuals, the documentation, and the metadata, to support the sellers and the customer support. These content-hungry processes that we've been talking about don't stop when the product hits the store shelves or the e-commerce site. Sales and customer support teams really are a key source of information for consumers during and after purchase. Customers now expect more information about products than ever before. And really the legacy systems that a lot of companies have in place make it difficult or impossible to really connect these downstream design teams to these downstream support teams to the upstream parts of the process that are relevant to the customers. By having a connected DAM approach or a product asset management approach, it really puts up-to-date knowledge at your support team's fingertips. They can search across multiple systems. They're managing the right metadata, and business information is connected to the right asset, so they're not relying on disconnected searches. That's really highly dependent on skill and systems knowledge of the individual. And teams can have a higher impact on the customer experience by really accessing information that's created at multiple points from across the product lifecycle, so they know about things like specific materials or ingredients used in a particular product or batch. And it helps with the retailers who can stock, a particular product that really meets the customer need, because they can link the customer data to the product data. So what we've really talked about is looking at how do we actually connect the content and the data together throughout the product lifecycle at all these 7 different touch points. And by pulling data from systems that are not currently integrated, associate that data with the core content. So as well as having metadata around an image that's just about the image, we can also pull in information from product information management, campaign management, e-commerce sites, rights management, and so forth, and really build a collaborative set of information in one unified space that can be accessed and used by people throughout the product lifecycle. And Frederick's got a use case around eRetail syndication that I think really helps illustrate the point.
Yeah, for sure. And I really like this graphic because this is a clear presentation to more or less on what we are doing here by Activo since the last year. Of course, for most retailers, they need a DAM, an ECM system. So this is a foundation, as we said just at the beginning. But the PIM really is also very important at that stage. So, and of course, you need the connector, as Alan was just explaining before. The PIM is not really the place where you can manage high volumes of information. Even if some vendors will explain you that they can do everything in one system, it's not really the case, because of course it depends on the number of SKUs or you have to manage. There's a huge difference between 5,000 and 1 million, as for example. But for most retailers, they have a lot of them. And inside the company, most of the people today, they have, and I see they have a lot of systems. One of the things they have more and more today is Salesforce. So you know that Salesforce is doing a lot of things, and even more. During the last event, they are even moving to the CMS. But they are used to, for large retailers, to manage even some assets, to manage all the commercial, the start of the project really at stage. So it's very important to get to be able to inherit this type of information. Most of the people, they have also MI system or MDM system for master data management. So at one stage, the PIM, and thanks to the technology that we have based on the API, etc., you can really aggregate all this information in one single source of your data. And the data is really the key things inside your workflow, because it will rely on your assets, but the data is really at the heart of all your touchpoints that you have to syndicate. And sometimes, of course, you have different touchpoints, but sometimes you need also to update this information back to your ERP system. So it has to be, at the end of the day, very flexible. So you can, and it's very important at that stage to make the right choice regarding the technology.
Oh, thank you. That was the end of the presentation part of the webinar for this morning. I hope you found that